Well, hey everyone, thanks for joining our Ask the Experts live here on LinkedIn. My name is Rob McGilvrey. I am the America specialist for everything Windows Pro and modern endpoints here at Microsoft. And so, super glad you could join today as we talk about productivity in Windows 11. So I'm going to get my presentation set up here. We do have a lot to go through today in this 30 minutes, and I do want to make sure that we're leaving enough time to have some questions answered. And so when we think about Windows 11, when we first launched Windows 11, a lot of the conversations I was having with customers was really around, how do we manage endpoints? When COVID hit, a lot of the endpoints that were within the four walls of their organization now went out into the wild. And so a lot of the conversations were around just getting the right infrastructure in place to make sure they can manage and keep endpoints up to date and making sure that they're secure. And now we see a little bit more of a balancing of priorities. So we know that security continues to be top of mind. We also know that new modern hardware from security and IT decision makers can really help protect their environment. But we also know outside of IT that business leaders are saying, "Hey, look, we need the quality of the PC to improve to make sure that we can support this new way of working." And as we know that this new flexible way of working is here to stay. So I normally work out of my home office, but today I'm actually in one of our Microsoft offices. And so how can we create that seamless experience to be able to really work from anywhere with Windows 11? And so we also know that we are seeing some new challenges. We're on meetings more than we've ever been, and we know that end users are facing this digital fatigue and this brain drain at the end of the day. I know there's some days where I personally am on calls from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at night, and so how can I get everything else done that I need to get done? And so we know that end users in this are really looking towards AI to really help them simplify work, to be more creative, and get things done quicker. And we'll talk a lot about that today with Windows 11. So what can Windows 11, do for your business? Again, when we talk, we talk a lot about really kind of three key areas now. So first is security, how Windows 11 can improve the overall security posture within your organization, how it's simple and easy to manage. And then really we're now seeing this blending of user experiences and AI really coming together into the platform. And that's where I want to spend a bulk of my time today, is just really around kind of AI and productivity in the Windows 11 platform. And when we think about the innovation that really we're bringing into Windows 11, I know this is a pretty loaded slide, but I'd really have you focus in on kind of that category where in the year where it says 2023. And so what we've brought into the Windows 11 platform over the past 10 months is really more innovation than we've probably brought in for the past 10 years. And we're continuing to just bring more features, really geared again towards making a more secure platform, but ultimately, how can we make sure that the platform is inclusive and it's bringing the right features to help end users be more productive on a daily basis? And so when we think about AI, again, we know this is really kind of the number one topic, and we know that AI is kind of here, right? It's generative AI has really shown up quickly in the market, and so I definitely want to level set and say, hey, at Microsoft we take AI seriously, and we take we have responsible principles in place around AI. And I think the core thing that I want you to take away here is that your data is your data, and your data is not used to train any of our OpenAI large language model foundations. And your data is protected by some of the most comprehensive commercial and data protections and security controls in the industry. And we'll talk, and I'll reference why this is important when we think about overall AI and generative AI coming into the Windows platform. And so we're building on decades of innovation. So I don't know if anyone remembers Clippy, right? Clippy is AI, and we've really been using AI kind of behind the scenes for a few decades now, and end users may not really be aware of it. But we are continuing to innovate, and we want to build on that foundation of AI, and it's really accelerated, as I mentioned earlier, around our continuous innovation and how we're bringing in more intelligent evolution into the PC, and not just with generative AI. And that's what I'll talk a little bit more about today, is how else are we bringing in AI across the entire platform to make sure that we're creating the best experience and the most productive experience for all end users within our organization. And so we do know that generative AI has some promise. And so this is a study that Harvard did. It was published back in September. They worked with the Boston Consulting Group on this, and they really found some interesting statistics around the impact that generative AI can have on end user productivity. So they saw a 12.2 increase in task completion rates, a 25.1% decrease in time spent completing those tasks, a 12.5% increase in the number of subtasks completed, and then probably what I find really powerful here is a 40% plus increase in the quality of those responses to those subtasks. And so we know that generative AI can have impact. IDC recently published a study as well that said for every dollar organizations are investing in AI, they're seeing a 3.5x return on that, and some organizations are even seeing up to an 8x return on that, just given how much users interact with this new AI technology. But what we also know is that generative AI can bring some security and privacy concerns, right? So what happens if a user within my organization goes to one of these AI powered chats on the web and puts confidential information? What if somebody from Coke went in and put the formula for Coca-Cola in one of these chats, and all of a sudden that then input is then used to train the model and potentially could leak secrets out into the public. And so we know that people are using these chats. We know that again, end users want to leverage generative AI. And we also know that some organizations are discouraging employees from visiting these solutions because they are fearful of what might happen if proprietary and confidential information is inputted into one of these chats, and then there is no commercial data protection enabled, and then that information is then used to train the model. And so when we think about kind of the need for generative AI, we think about the new way that we're working and these challenges that we're facing around this digital debt and this brain drain, and that how employees are saying, hey, I want to use some of these new technologies to really help me get more done. As we all know, we're stretched thin. We like to use the term do more with less. And so when we think about that, we really want to think about Windows holistically and how we're bringing in new productivity features, but also how we're leveraging AI to really help enhance those features. And so this is a very loaded slide, but when we think about productivity and AI in Windows, there's a few things we're focused on, right? We want to help people get more done quickly, get access to information better, and we'll talk about some of these new features that we're bringing in there. We want them to be able to work from anywhere. So as I mentioned, I normally work from home. Today I'm working at one of our offices. My personal favorite feature of Windows, and I'll give an example because this is a real life example for me today, is as long as I don't turn my laptop off that I'm on right now, and I go home this evening and I plug my laptop back in to my desktop, to my docking station, like I did this morning when I unplugged it. I didn't power my PC off. I just put it to sleep. When I get back to my desk and I redock, it's actually going to remember where all my windows were located on my external monitors. And so seamless redocking to really just help you get productive anywhere very quickly. And then also Phone Link. For a long time, our Phone Link app was just Android support. We've made enhancements recently here to now support iOS within our Phone Link app as well. We also, again, want to enable smarter work. Again, in work styles being unlimited, right? To be able to switch and touch and ink and pen, running Android apps through the Microsoft Store with our partners with Amazon. So in widgets, so we're really bringing this, new work style within the UX of Windows 11. Smarter video conferencing. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. So I'll move on to the next one. And then lastly, how are we leveraging AI and productivity for accessibility? Right, system-wide live captioning, natural interaction, voice support, voice typing. We actually have Braille screen support. So how are we bringing all of these technologies in to create the most inclusive version of Windows ever, so that any user within our organization can have a great experience interacting with Windows 11? And so, there are a few things that I know are top of mind for probably a lot of people joining today. One of those is the buzz around Copilot. So we'll talk a lot about Copilot and what Copilot in Windows is. We went through some rebranding recently as well, so we'll hopefully provide some clarity there, and we'll kind of give you a foundation of kind of how AI is built and really where AI starts and how you can build upon that within your organization. Another new feature that we brought with Windows 11 recently is what's called AI-powered recommendations. So if you're using Azure Active Directory, which we now call Entra ID, if you go into File Explorer, and you pull up File Explorer, you can actually see AI recommending files that are relevant potentially to some meetings you have in your schedule that day, or potentially something you were working on last week that you need to continue to work on. So how can we help end users just get access to information quicker, leveraging AI and some of the intelligence that we have within our daily activities and certain projects and different things that we're working on. We're not going to talk about security today, but we're also leveraging AI to come in and really help be more proactive and have intelligent protection. So there's a new feature within Windows 11 called Enhanced Phishing and Protection with Microsoft Defender Smart Screen. And what this does is this takes all the telemetry that we capture at Microsoft from a security perspective, and if a site or if a site or an app has been flagged with Microsoft for being malicious, and one of your end users goes and visits that site or logs into that application with their credentials, we're actually going to ping the end user and say, hey, look, we think something malicious may potentially be happening. This site, this app has been flagged with Microsoft. We think you should go through a reset password request because your credentials may have been harvested. And this sits at the OS level of device and works across all different browsers and all different applications. Effortless meetings, again, I'll talk a little bit more about maybe a new concept for you around a meeting experience. We'll talk about that in a minute. And again, as I mentioned earlier, really just accessibility for all. And really how we're trying to have a bigger impact and create a more inclusive version of Windows. So all types of users can have great interaction, whether in the field, the office, and really making sure that there is accessibility for all. And so when we think about building on that, there are some new features again outside of the ones I just mentioned that I'll briefly touch on as well. We're making enhancements to Paint. So you think about the Paint application, being able to remove a background from an image. The snipping tool, this is probably one where whenever I'm in person, some people applaud for this one. So we're making snipping easier. So if you use the snipping tool, you can now leverage AI to actually extract the text out of that screenshot. And then you're able to copy and paste that into another document. So leveraging AI within a snipping tool. Voice access, again, natural language interaction, and then Ink Anywhere. So if you have a device that supports ink and pen, we're now enabling inking anywhere, so you can actually write within a menu, and it'll actually go and actually recognize the text and help you search for information. Excuse me. So let's talk about meetings. So I'm sure some of you probably had a similar experience like I had when COVID happened and I went home, and now all of a sudden, instead of in-person meetings, my day was filled with virtual meetings. And you were encouraged to turn your camera on. And virtual backgrounds and were now a new thing. And so as you probably experienced, your PC may have started to get pretty hot. Your fans may have fired up really quickly. And so, all of that video processing and all the stuff that's happening on the device back then was really sitting with the CPU. Right? So all the background blur, the noise cancellation, everything was processing with the CPU. And so when we think about this new concept of what we call Windows Studio Effects, which has been around for about a year now, if you have a device that either has like an AI accelerator or what we call a neural processing unit with a chip, you can actually then offload that video processing to what's called this NPU, which could be embedded within the CPU in some of these newer modern PCs. And what that's going to do is that's going to take that video processing, that auto framing, that better background blur, live captioning, voice assist, and really eye gaze correct. So it's going to bring AI in to really help have a better overall meeting experience, to really improve the overall performance of the device as well, taking that workload off the CPU and putting it onto this NPU. So now let's talk a little bit about Copilot in Windows, which is really kind of your everyday AI companion. And so when we think about Copilot in Windows, this is the UX for Copilot within Microsoft. So this is a UX that sits directly on your desktop within Windows 11. We've also made an announcement that we'll be bringing Copilot UX into Windows 10 as well. And we'll be able to do all the functionality that you see here on the screen today, where you're able to personalize some of those settings within your PC, but you will be able to interact with the large language model and Microsoft 365 chat, which is part of Microsoft 365 Copilot, directly there on the UX on your device. But let's talk about Windows 11. So what can Copilot do in Windows 11? So there's really kind of three key areas that I like to focus on. So one is around process and creating. Okay, so leveraging Copilot to then help you process and create new things. So I'll give an example here. I was creating a slide for a presentation and I went to one of our websites in our Learn documents. I highlighted the text on that website. And then the highlighted text then popped up into Copilot here and said, hey, look, I noticed you've highlighted some text. Would you like to send it to Copilot? And so I said, sure. And I pressed send. When I sent it to Copilot, it then said, hey, what would you like me to do with this? And I needed a summary of what was happening on that page. So I asked it to summarize it. And I then took that summary, copy and pasted it into a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, I had to do a few little tweaks to it to give it the right structure that I wanted. But it really helped accelerate the creation of this new slide. It probably saved me about 50 to 60% of my time it would have taken for me to read through the website and capture what I wanted to capture to put in this PowerPoint slide. So again, leveraging Copilot to help you do more and really help accelerate some of those subtasks that you're looking at completing. Also productivity. So can I ask it to open an app, organize my windows, start a focus session for me, turn on do not disturb. So things that really just can help me be more productive and instant as I interact with the Copilot UX. And then personalize your PC. When I'm talking a lot with IT decision makers, right? How can Copilot then be used to maybe prevent some help desk tickets? So maybe an end user wants to add a Bluetooth device and they're really not figuring it out. They can actually ask Copilot to help them do that, so they don't have to open up a help desk ticket, change their background, maybe change the certain mode of their PC. And so just really personalizing that experience. So not just gaining access to generative AI to help you improve and create processes, but also across the entire platform, of personalizing that experience, directly on the device. And so when we think about Copilot, we at Microsoft, we use the word Copilot a lot. And so you'll see a graph here in a second that shows a lot of different Copilots. But when we think about Copilot in Windows, that's really where it starts. And so we did a little bit of rebranding. You may have heard of Bing Chat and Bing Chat Enterprise. We're now just calling this Copilot in Windows. And if you log in with your Azure Active Directory credentials or your Entra ID, you actually will get Copilot in Windows with commercial data protection. And what that means is that your data is your data. Your data is not used to train any of those large language models. So when you give access to your employees to start leveraging this technology directly on their Windows PC, and you have that commercial data protection enabled, you can feel comfortable and confident that the data is not going to be used or be leaked to potentially train the model and someone else to gain access to that information. And then you build on their Copilot for Microsoft 365, which again will give you those enterprise applications and bringing the Copilot generative AI features into those daily productivity apps that you use on a daily basis. And so this is really kind of the bulk of the slide. I've got one other feature we'll talk about here, but again, I want to make sure we have time to get some questions. But when you think about AI, we get this question a lot around, hey, where do I start, right? And really, it starts with the PC and Copilot in Windows, and it starts where you get work done. And so when we think about AI, it's how can we start to leverage these features directly on the desktop to really help our end users start to be more productive, start learning those behaviors of how they interact with these with generative AI to get the best results out of it. We're then bringing in with Entra ID that commercial data protection element to really help make sure that you're comfortable and confident that if I do put in something into the prompt that is confidential or proprietary, it's not going to be used to train those models, and no one at Microsoft can see that data, so I don't have to be concerned about that leaking. We then think about bringing in Microsoft 365 Copilot, really to help tag on those productivity apps to become that productivity partner. And then lastly, how you can use AI as a strategic asset in Copilot Studio, which is a new feature that we just announced, which I'll briefly talk about here for a minute as we close this session out, and then go to questions. But again, this is a great view on kind of, hey, where do I start? And again, AI really starts at the PC. And yes, it is Copilot in Windows, but it's also all these other AI features that I mentioned that really help improve the overall experience across the entire Windows platform, not just with the generative AI piece and Copilot in Windows. So I'll move through this last couple slides really quickly again, so we can make sure we got plenty of time for chats. But when you think about the Copilot ecosystem, Microsoft 365 Copilot is at the core, right? And we're bringing it to the operating system where you get work done, and we're bringing Copilot across a lot of key areas as well. Copilot into aspects for developers, into those business applications like we talked about with Microsoft 365 Copilot and Modern Work. How are we bringing AI into those pieces? How are we then using AI in the cloud with data? And then are we also bringing in AI from a browser and search perspective? So if you're using Edge, you might see some of the Copilot features enabled in the latest version of Edge as well. And so this is really that whole entire ecosystem of Copilot. But again, it really does start where end users are getting work done on a daily basis. And that starts with Windows and Copilot in Windows. We've also launched a new feature here. I'm going to jump through this one here really quick, just so we can make sure we've got time for questions. There's a video here that I'll jump over, but we also announced recently, Copilot Studio. And so what this is Copilot Studio is going to allow you, give you an application where you can actually go in and customize and build and manage your own Copilot. So when we looked at that building block slide, that top layer, really having AI as kind of a strategic asset within your organization. And so we're help equipping you to bring tools that you can then create your own co-pilots and then publish those co-pilots directly into the Copilot UX that we talked about with Copilot in Windows, to really just help, take your AI journey to the next level outside of generative AI and AI within applications, those enterprise apps, to then customized AI to really help improve the whole entire way that your organization is working. And so I'm going to jump quickly across this video really quick, and kind of close out with this slide. Go back one more here. Again, this is just kind of a snapshot of Copilot Studio. Again, building your own Copilots, customizing the Microsoft Copilot platform, and then managing that Copilot experience and publishing those apps, directly into the Microsoft or directly into the Copilot in Windows interface, so you can provide this better overall experience for your end users. And so now we're going to open it up, and I'll look in the chat here to see what questions we have. It looks like we had one question come through about how do you install or update for these new Windows 11 features. So if you're on Windows 11 currently, if you go into your start menu and you just search check for updates, you may not have seen Copilot yet. So Copilot in Windows is actually off by default with Windows 11 22H2, so it will need to be activated. We can get you instructions on that. On Windows 11 23H2, it is on by default. You may see a toggle switch in that window that says, "Hey, get updates as soon as they're released." So if you click that toggle switch on, it'll actually have you restart after you click that toggle switch on, and then you will get access to Copilot. And please let us know. We can always get you, additional information. There's plenty of information on our websites on how to get access to some of these Copilot features directly in Windows. And then let's see what else we've got here coming in. So, all right. Another one is how does Windows 11 Pro leverage AI to enhance multitasking capabilities for end users? So we can talk about Snap Assist, where you can instantly, organize your windows. You can leverage Copilot to help you organize your desktop as well. So you think about multitasking. I know, I traditionally have multiple monitors when I'm working at home, but today I'm working from my laptop, so I can easily snap my windows to make sure I've got two windows side by side to help bring those together to be more productive. So there's a lot of different things there from a multitasking perspective. And as I mentioned with Copilot Windows, right, it's looking at what you're doing on your desktop, and it's actually going to start interacting. Like the example I shared with when I was highlighting some text, it automatically popped up and said, "Hey, do you want to send it to me and have Copilot help you with the task that you're trying to complete?" Let's see. We've got another question over here from Anita. It looks like, will any updates be announced with enough time to allow us to not interfere with workflow? So anytime we bring out new features and updates, again, we always bring those out with commercial controls. So we also get the question a lot about, hey, can I restrict access to Copilot as we try to be more strategic on how we roll things out? And so when we announced our continuous innovation strategy for Windows, we also did announce that as these features potentially now are coming through quality updates, that we are offering commercial controls for those as well. So you can have control around which features to enable, which features to not enable. So you can definitely make sure that you're planning properly as you roll these features out to end users so they can start leveraging those features. I will say though, one thing that I've learned from personal experience with some of these AI features, especially Copilot, is this is a new behavior for me to learn. I can find myself sometimes, just working the way that I've always worked, and not actually, turning on some of those tools or leveraging some of those tools. So I have to develop new behaviors to start interacting with these AI tools to make sure that I can take advantage of a lot of the productivity gains, for example, that we saw with the Harvard study around helping, increase the completion and quality of some of those tasks that we're completing. Let's see. So we've got. So I talked a little bit about. Here's another one here. Just as in the context of work from anywhere. Can you elaborate on kind of some of the seamless workflows offered by Windows 11 Pro? So I talked about that seamless redocking, right? If I don't turn my PC off and I undock and come back and redock, it's actually going to remember where all my windows are located. We also have things like Windows 365 boot. If you're into a virtual type environment, you want to boot that PC directly into a virtual environment. We're bringing in new features like that as well. We also have multiple desktops where you can have multiple desktops set up where you can easily transition, between desktops as well. There in the bottom, widgets, different things like that that we're really bringing in to really just kind of enhance the workflow. And when we think about layering on Microsoft 365 Copilot with Copilot in Windows. When you have that license, the Microsoft 365 chat, which is part of Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is working with your documents and your information within your organization, it will then also be integrated directly into that experience to really help improve the overall workflow, for our end users. Another good question here is, with increasing importance of virtual communication, how does Windows 11 Pro ensure smart video conferencing? What features contribute to making a virtual meeting more efficient? So if you're using Teams and you haven't seen this yet, right? We now have you can unmute yourself directly from the system tray in Windows 11. If you're in Teams, you can actually, and you have an application open, you can actually hover over that on your taskbar, and there'll be a little message there that says you can share directly into that Teams meeting, maybe from PowerPoint or Word. And so just seamless integration on how we can actually, really help end users have a better overall meeting experience. And then we talked about Windows Studio Effects. Again, taking the video processing, the noise cancellation, all those things off the CPU and putting it onto a new chip called the neural processing unit, just so that the PC performs better. And I know I've experienced that at times where I could be in a video call and it's eating up a lot of my resources, and then other applications start to fail or have challenges working because the CPU is being overworked. And so we're continuing to just bring in innovation on how we can just make the meeting experience better overall. I know we've made a lot of advancements around background noise cancellation. I was on a call earlier today where someone's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, there's a vacuum running in the background," and no one on the call could hear it. And so how are we continuing to bring in and leverage AI to really help just create a better overall meeting experience, no matter where we're working, whether it's at home, in an office, or potentially, on the road at a coffee shop. Let's see. I know we've got time maybe for one or two more questions here. So another question is how many versions and editions of Copilot? Is this license or subscription based? Is it secure to use? So very little question. There's a lot there, but a great question. So this will be the last question. We'll probably take up the last couple minutes here. But when we think about Copilot, we think about the interface in Windows. So Copilot in Windows is free. Okay, so it's part of a feature that we've brought into the Windows platform, whether you're on Home, Pro, or Enterprise. It is there. And so by default, it comes with Bing Chat, which does not have any of those commercial and data protection components enabled. Most organizations, if you log in with your Entra ID or Azure Active Directory credentials, that will give you, commercial data protection. So it's secure to then start interacting, with the chat mechanism there and the generative AI piece of that, because you do get that commercial and data protection with your Azure Active Directory credentials. That has changed a little bit. Before, you needed a Bing Chat Enterprise license and Azure Active Directory or Entra ID to be able to get that commercial data protection. We just made a change to say, hey, if you log into your PC, you log into Copilot with your Azure Active Directory credentials, you will get that commercial data protection. So we've actually taken some additional steps to just make that more accessible and make it more easy to access. So you don't need that additional license to do that. And then you think about, okay, Copilot outside of just the Copilot Windows experience and interacting with the generative AI, and you think about Microsoft 365 Copilot, that is an additional license that gives you access to those enterprise apps and Copilots within things like Teams, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, right? That's an additional add-on license. The base license requirement for an end user to be able to add that license on is our E3, E5, A3, A5 SKUs. So making sure that you're in the right licensing to be able to add on those productivity apps for that additional license cost. And then you think about, leveraging AI and some of those things in Azure OpenAI, Azure consumption, right? So, there's a lot of questions that go in there. And then we have things like Security Copilot and other aspects of Copilots that are additional licensing. So if there's specific use cases, please let us know. Get in touch with Connection. We've enabled them to really help you understand, what options are out there. Thank you for joining this live session today and Ask the Experts on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Rob McGilvrey with Microsoft, and we appreciate you joining.